I've been giddy about this, haven't I?
You have.
I
You
know.
have. As a matter of fact, the first time I interviewed Mackie when I had another show going on, you
Yeah.
mentioned Dickey Lee as your hero.
Yeah. Well,
Yes.
so here's the thing, and he's a very humble legend, and so he's gonna say, oh no. But here's the real, but here's the real deal. So from the time I was a kid, I've known Dickie since I was a kid, and followed his career, because I always knew I wanted to be a songwriter, and so I followed his career. And he was a Memphis guy, moved to Nashville, transplant, kind of same trajectory that I did.
Yeah.
But Dickie. Was very, very kind. I sent him some really crappy songs when I was a kid, and he was always so nice and encouraging. And then by the time I moved to Nashville, I had met people, and Dickey Lee was a champion for me, and really connected me with a lot of folks. And I've had a career in music since I moved here, and I definitely credit Dickey Lee. And Dickey Lee is on the phone with us
Yes.
right now. How you
Hello.
doing?
Well, hey, Mac, Brenda, listen, I'll tell you what, buddy. I wrote some pretty crappy songs myself when I first got started. It's just funny, you don't realize how crappy they are until later on, you know?
Yes. Well, hey, so I have a question for you then. So, I've had certain champions in my life that have helped me along the way, and you're definitely at the top of that list. But who, when you were first getting started writing songs, and you've had so many, I couldn't even count them. We were going through them earlier. Just I can't even count all the amazing hits and cuts that you've had through the years. But who have been champions of you? Like when you first started writing songs in the music industry, who were some of your champions?
Well, Mac, this is really funny, and not many people are aware of this, but I kind of really started writing songs when I was like, oh gosh, maybe in junior high school.
Mm-hmm.
But I remember when I was in about the eighth or ninth grade, there was a guy, I went to Whitehaven in Memphis,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there was a guy. He was about 4 or 5 years ahead of me. He never knew me. His name was David Ransom. Don't know whatever happened to him, but he was kind of a high school hero. He was a great athlete, and he would, on Fridays, he would play a guitar. He would play his guitar at assembly sometimes, and I just thought, man, this guy is so cool. That's what I want to do, because he plays football, he plays his guitar, and he gets all the girls. That's what I want to do. So
Yeah.
and it sounds a little bit shallow, but that's really what got me started.
Yeah.
I bought an old guitar. I remember my first guitar I bought cost me $8. It was a Stella. Remember the Stella?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
The strings were about an inch off the fretboard.
That's awesome.
And anyway, but that's how I got started, and I just kind of progressed from there. And later on, I met what really got me into the business. I met Dewey Phillips. You know who Dewey Phillips
Of course.
was?
Yes.
And anyway, one night I went up to his radio show, and after he came off the air, I asked him if he would listen to a couple of songs, and he said, yeah, So anyway, I played a couple of songs for him, songs called Dream Boy and Stay True Baby. And he said, hey, I like those songs. He said, do you have a band? And I said, no, I don't. He said, I tell you what, he said, you put a band together and call me, and we'll get back together. So,
Nice.
I did. I got a band together, practiced the songs, and went back. Make a long story short, he recorded them in WHBQ studios, and he got some guy had a fly-by-night label. We put him out on a label called Tampa Records.
Yeah.
And it was a two-sided hit. Went all the way to number 2. It was behind Elvis Presley's All Shook Up.
Awesome.
All the way up the charts.
Wow.
Awesome.
Stayed one slot behind him. I never got to number 1.
Wow. Now, Dickie, correct me if I'm wrong. That's what Brenda Lynn does. That's why we do this show.
I have to do it often. Not really. Not really.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but you actually recorded at least for a short time on Sun Records too, right?
Yeah. I had a couple records on Sun. After that, Dewey got me on Sun Records after that first record.
Wow.
And we had a couple of mediocre regional hits, nothing great. But anyway, I made some great friendships on Sun. Sam Phillips and I got to be really, really close. And
That's awesome.
his sons Knox and Jerry were good friends of mine.
Yes.
Knox passed away a few years ago, but
Yes.
we were very close over the years.
Yeah, and of course, Jerry is he's down in North Alabama, making waves down there too with the
Right.
radio
Yeah.
network.
And I'll tell you something else that's really cool. I never had any major hits on Sun, but they kind of made me a hero in Europe. It's amazing just being on that label.
Nice.
It's that connection.
Yeah.
You know, they love Sun Records over there. So it's pretty cool.
That is very cool. Now, you started your career. Now, I know that you did a lot of records as an artist of your own in the early career of Dickey Lee, and then tell me when the writing started, but because you've written so many, you've written standards in country music, and but how did all the writing portion of your career start?
I really got started writing in the '60s, and the first guy when I went with Sun Records, Jack Clement.
Yes.
He was the engineer. He engineered my recordings there, and we got to be really good friends all the way up until his death a few years ago. And he was kind of my mentor.
Cowboy Jack,
and,
yes.
Yeah, Cowboy Jack. And I remember I remember asking Jack, I said, you think I could ever write a really yeah, you don't have to be that sharp to write a big hit. So anyway, I wrote for Jack. He was my first publisher, and after Sun Records was my first publisher, but then after that, Jack became my publisher, and as I say, my mentor.
Yeah.
And while I was writing for Jack, I wrote "She Thinks I Still Care," and he got it on. He got it to George Jones, who had a #1 record with it.
Yes.
And then, a couple of years later, Anne Murray did it. She had a #1. And a couple of years after that, Elvis did it. He actually cut it twice. And he had a #1 record with it. And, what's really funny, Mac and Brenda, is like, this was the first major hit I ever got recorded. So it's been all downhill ever since.
I'm sure. Yeah.
I love that.
So
song.
any idea, I mean, you may not even know, but any idea how many artists have recorded She Thinks He Thinks
I've been told close to 1,000 recordings on that song.
Wow. That's amazing.
I've even pitched it to people who said, I've already done that. So
yeah. Well, Mackie and I have been performing that song as a duet at the last few shows that we
sure did.
done, and we talked about recording it. So you might have 1,001.
1,001 coming up, Dickey.
Well, hey, I tell you, I really apprate that.
Well, we appreciate you writing it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful.
Yeah, and it works. It's such, it's. Gosh, I don't even know how to describe it. Elegant simplicity, though. I mean, it's just
simplicity. Simplicity, that's the story of my life. I've been trying to write a follow-up for 50 years.
You're trying too hard. That's the problem, I guess, maybe.
I guess.
But no, it's just. But that's the thing. That's the beauty of it. It's very straightforward, but it's also got so many layers to it, and we do it when we do it as a duet. We don't even look at each other because it's like she's got her verse
on it,
and I do too, and it's just the song goes so many different ways. It's so cool. It's wonderful.
We're ripping our own hearts out.
We're ripping our hearts out doing this. But
all right.
Yeah, it's so good. But you've had oh my goodness, and you're in the Songwriters Hall of Fame, I know, and. And you just had such an incredible career as a songwriter. But going back one more time, you also had songs recorded. I remember, when I was right before I got to know you, and then after I got to know you, my band backed you up a few times in Memphis.
Yeah.
And I remember, during that time, you were still kind of reeling with the songs like 9,999,000 Tears, Rocky, and all those songs that you continue to to play. And do you still do those songs when you go out and do shows?
Oh yeah, I do. I do most of those songs. So basically, I've had about eight songs I've written that were #1, and I've had another 8 that I didn't write but recorded that were #1. I was always too smart to record my own songs. But anyway, I go out. My basic show is, and I tell you what, guys, like I do 2 different things. Like as far as I still play with bands,
Mm-hmm.
but I go out a lot today by myself and just sit on a stool and sing and tell stories about the songs, and people just love that. So
That's great.
I've got about, I got about almost 20 songs that were all #1 songs that I
Yes.
can talk about and sing.
Yes.
Awesome.
So good. And such an incredible catalog of music, and that's
Well,
great.
I'll tell you what, I've had some great co-writers too.
Mm.
Didn't do it all by myself.
Yeah, yeah, and I of course, some of those guys, I know Kerry Chater and Bob McDill, and so many, great ones that you've written some incredible songs with. Here's something interesting. So, I know your catalog because I dig deep with your catalog, but like for instance, Joe Cocker recorded "Standing Knee Deep," right?
Yeah, right.
So
yeah.
what and that's, to me, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So because your songs, again, they just they can cross so many barriers, boundaries, musically and genre wise.
Well, speaking of that song, Kathy Mattea recorded it first.
Beautiful
Yes.
version of that.
Yeah.
Yes.
And my Linda Adele Howard, I don't know if you know her. She's my music attorney, but at the time that song was recorded, she worked for for the publishing company. I can't even think of it. Polygram, I guess. Well, it's Universal now, but
yeah.
but anyway, she's the one. She actually got that song pitched to Joe Cocker.
Wow.
And
Wow.
I tell this story a lot on my shows. Like when he recorded it, Kathy Mattea had like a top 15 country record with it. Well, when Joe Cocker did it, I never saw it on a single chart, but got paid for over 2 million records.
Wow.
And it was really funny because I tell this story. Like one time I was standing at the corner of Hollywood and Vine, and this black limousine pulls up one day. I'm standing there, and finally the back door opens, and Joe Cocker falls out on the sidewalk drunk. And
Really?
I kind of moved away a little bit. That's as close as I got to meeting him. But if I'd known he was going to record my song, I would have helped him up.
Yeah. Right. That's hilarious.
That's great.
So you've I know that with your career you've met a lot of these artists that have recorded your songs through the years, but is there any insight you can give us on Elvis? We've got Elvis's birthday coming up and birthday week. Any insight on Elvis, like maybe when he recorded your song or something?
Well, the cool thing, I was the first kid after Elvis to have a hit record out of Memphis.
Wow.
And I remember that you're familiar with a lot of these names. I'm sure a lot of your audience
Yes.
won't be, but we did a Dewey Phillips and Wink Martindale when Dream Boy, Stay True Baby when it was a local hit in Memphis. They put on a show out at the Rainbow Terrace Room.
Yeah.
And, I played, did a show out there. It was packed. And when we left, I was walking out, and this guy comes up to me and says, "Hey, Elvis wants to meet you." And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "No, he's out here." So he was actually parked out on the street, in this Cadillac convertible.
Yeah.
And I go out there. So I can't even remember who the guy was that took me out there. One of his guys.
Yeah.
But we talked for a few minutes, and he said, "Hey, I really like your record." And I said, "Well, hey, I really like your records too." but anyway, he invited me out to his house, and make a long story short, I went out there a few times, and we got to be pretty good friends. We never just really ran around together or anything like that, but he was so good to me. And I always appreciated that.
Yeah. Now, when you met him, was this prior to him recording "She Thinks I Still Care," or after?
Oh yeah. In fact, this is really funny. He told me, oh gosh, it was quite a few years, but he told me, I'll tell you another funny story. You remember, well, I'm not going to mention the names, but he had a guy that worked for him who heard that song before George Jones did it. And he said, "Man, I like that. Can I take that to Elvis?" And we said, sure. We were in Jack Clemens' office.
Yeah.
And we made him, remember the old acetates you used to make?
Of course. Yes.
He said, well, he made him an acetate. And so anyway, he said he was going to take it to Elvis, and I kind of forgot about it. But probably within a couple of months after that, George Jones recorded it. So anyway, probably, a couple of years after that, Ann Murray did it. And later on, Elvis, he said, hey, I'm going to record that song of yours. And I said, well, what song are you talking about? He said, She Thinks I Still Care. I said, well, you were the first guy that song was pitched to. And he said, what are you talking about? And I said, well, so-and-so took you that song, right when I first recorded it. He said, well, that S.O.B. so anyway, that was pretty funny, but he did, he recorded it, and he actually recorded it twice. In fact, this is really funny. His album, the Jungle Room album he did out at his place in Graceland, that song was actually in there 3 times. He actually recorded it twice.
Wow.
He had kind of a little jazzy up-tempo version of it.
Really?
And he did the first time he did it was kind of real ballad. But then both of those songs were in the album. And they had a bunch of outtakes in the album. And it was in there too. So that song was actually in his album 3 times. So it's like having 3 songs in that album, but they were all the same one.
My
so
goodness.
That was pretty cool.
Yes, very cool. One of my, you've got so many songs, and it's hard to even nail one down and go, wow, that's just probably one of my favorite, because there's so many of them. But one of your songs, I wish it was my song. One of your songs that you wrote has been recorded by a lot of different artists. Was "The Blues Don't Care Who's Got 'Em." I love that song.
Yeah. Waylon Holyfield and I wrote that song.
One of my favorite people of all time as well. Yeah.
We've had a few cuts on that. I think, let's see, Reba McEntire recorded it first, I think.
And there's a Gary Stewart version of that, I think, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And there's been a few more, and I can't even remember them. Yeah, I'm getting at that age, I can't remember anything. So,
well, you've just had so many hits. How do you keep up?
Right.
No. Well, if I don't know anything for sure, I just make something up.
Well, that's what you do for a living, Dickey.
That's right. Make stuff up for a living.
That's right.
You've done it quite well.
I want to go to one of Dickey Lee's live shows and hear all these stories in person.
Do you have anything lined up that maybe or down the pike that we'd come see you live?
Well, my next show actually, it's in Santa Rosa Beach in Florida. And that's kind of a Christian show. I'm just doing a few Christian songs there.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Then my next one is in Michigan. So I'm not doing anything close by right now, but I'll let you guys know for sure the next time I do.
Okay. Well, we've got friends in Santa Rosa Beach, and we'll definitely be looking for you there. For sure. Let them know about that. Yeah, that's great.
Okay.
And well, it's a pleasure to chat with you and to catch up with you. I love you, and I've told you that, and I don't want that to go or passed by. You're just you're the best, and love your music so very much. And we've got several things that we're going to spin on the show this evening. So.
And I'm so glad to meet you, Dickey. And I've heard so many great things about you, and have been a fan of your music for a long time as well.
Well, Brenda, I sure do appreciate it. Maybe the 3 of us can get together sometime in the near future and have lunch or something.
Would absolutely love that.
Yes, we would love that.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Dickey. Thank you so much.
Hey, thank you, Mac. Thank you, Brenda.
All right.
Thank you, Dickey.
Hey,